Well, welcome back to another Triathlon Training Explained. Today I'm talking about training diaries, what they are, what they're for, and why you should definitely be keeping one. All right, well, let's start with what a training diary is. Now, on the simplest level, it is somewhere to record your training. That can be to log the training that you plan to do, you're prescribing to yourself, or even recording the training that you have done that you can then look back on and reflect on and analyze. Now, by this point, you've probably come across things like Training Peak, Strava, Map My Run, various other apps, all of which tend to have a kind of training diary incorporated into them. But a training diary can be as simple as a note on your phone or a book where you record your training. I actually used to have a separate physical diary book that I would record my training in before technology took over. Some athletes have also been known to go as far as creating their own digital diaries and planners using Excel or an online calendar, but it definitely does not need to be quite that fancy. So if it doesn't need to be fancy and digital, then what does it need to be? Well, for a training diary to actually be of any use at all, then you need to be documenting and recording each of your daily training sessions. Now, on a very basic level, that should be the distance or duration or both, and the intensity. So for instance, I've been for a nice easy 30-minute run today, and I'll probably score that about a 3, maybe a 4 out of 10. If you can, then recording more information and more detail can be really valuable. I'll explain a little bit more on why that is later on. So that could be things like your paces, your splits, your power, and so on. And I'm not trying to sell the online training platforms for you, but they are quite useful in the sense that they can actually record all that data nice and easily for you rather than you having to manually write that out. And a lot of your GPS devices and computers can automatically upload all that data for you. Okay, well now for the big question, why should you keep a training diary anyway? Well, there are a load of enormous benefits to a training diary, otherwise why would so many people be keeping them in the first place? The big one is the fact that you can track your progress. If you are keeping a detailed record of your training along with things like your splits, paces and so on, you can look back at that and hopefully you'll be able to track and follow your progress, or at least see where maybe things have gone wrong. It's also really satisfying looking back at all that hard work that you've done. And the same goes for races. Make sure you get all that information down in the training diary, analyze it, pick it apart, what went well, what didn't, and that also can serve to be very valuable in the future. Now, another benefit to the training plan is the fact that it allows you to also plan ahead. So rather than just waking up one day and going, oh, I think I'm going to go hard today, and then the next day waking up and going, oh, geez, yeah, I'm quite tired today, I might take it easy. You can start adding a bit of structure to your training. So that hard session, you really prepare to go hard in. And the pre-planned recovery sessions, they're planned in, they're meant to be there, and they're going to help your training. This is also going to transfer into when we're looking at some of the longer term goals. So say maybe you've got an Ironman coming up this year. That can be quite an overwhelming goal, particularly so when you're looking at it maybe months in advance at the start of all your training. It's also quite far into the future, so it's hard to keep that motivation going in training. Whereas using a training plan, we can start to break it all down into nice bite-sized chunks that are manageable, easy to digest. So we can actually start adding in some like little micro goals that you can then start using to track your progress along the way. Not only is that going to help your motivation, but actually having it all written down, you're far more likely to stick to it. And that is talking from personal experience. But one of the biggest benefits to keeping a training diary, in my opinion, is the fact that you've got everything logged there, so you can start looking back through the archive, seeing what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, maybe why you're performing well at the moment, maybe why you're not performing well at the moment, maybe you got your taper totally wrong going into a race. If you've got it all recorded here, you can completely pick that apart. I've got a really good personal example. I went through a phase of having really bad cramps, particularly so when I was swimming, and I get really badly into my calf, so much so I'd have to stop swimming. So I did everything I could to try and stop that. I was recording what I was eating, how much sleep I was getting, the training I was doing day in, day out. It boiled down to me just running a few hours prior to swimming. Once I cut that out, no cramps. So I've got a lot to thank for the training diary, really. Now clearly there are a number of benefits to a training diary, but how do we actually use one? As I've mentioned already, good planning goes hand in hand with good performance. So you want to use this training diary to plan out your time between now and your future goal, race, Ironman, whatever it is, and break that time down into bite-sized chunks that you can manage. As I've mentioned already, maybe setting those small goals along the way so you can track your progress and motivate you. But the big thing you really want to make sure that you're planning into that is your recovery, whether that's a day off per week to recover, or maybe breaking it down into 3 or 4 week blocks that then you'll take a recovery week after. Because no matter how resilient you may think you are, I'm afraid we all need recovery. Okay, so we know that planning is important, but how do we know that planning is actually working? Well, this is where some benchmark tests can come in, and these can serve as those little goals along the way that I was talking about before. So for the swim, it could be the critical swim speed test, the CSS test. On the bike, it could be the FTP test. On the run, a 5K time trial or a threshold test. You want to perform these maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks at the absolute most. But the important bit is get it down in your training diary, in your training plan, and then you can use that to refer back to previous tests. Maybe look at your test this time last year, see if it's better. Maybe your FTP on the bike is better during the off season now than it is when you were in peak fitness during the race season. Whatever it is, that is where the training diary really comes into its own. Well, hopefully by this point I have sold the training diary to you. Now I know I said you didn't need to do this earlier on in the video, but I would actually really recommend going the full hog with your training diary. Try and record as much as you possibly can. That doesn't mean you need to go as far as recording your personal weight each day or what you've been eating, but at least the information from each of those sessions, along with some subjective feedback, how you felt in that session. That could be as simple as one word, good, bad, or a couple of lines just detailing how it went, the paces, etc. That's not only going to help yourself when you're looking back through your training, but also your coach if you have one. Well, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Give it a like if you have, and I hope you've learned something from this and you start using a training diary if you haven't. And make sure, if you're not doing so already, you are subscribed to our GTN channels.